Since the heyday of soca in the 1970s and 80s, Frankie McIntosh has been at the forefront of revolutionizing the genres of soca and calypso. Having arranged over 2,500 songs, McIntosh has worked and done sessions with almost every leading soca and calypso artist. Frankie McIntosh was born in 1946 into a musical family. His childhood was consumed by music. His early influences included his father, Arthur McIntosh, who led a dance orchestra called the Mellotones. And on Sunday afternoons, Frankie's home was the band room. So it was no surprise when he himself became a member of the band.
Yeah, my father played, my uncles played. It was expected of a McIntosh that you play music. As a matter of fact, it was one of the defining factors, you know. He didn't play music. Are you really a McIntosh? So my father had a dance band. The name of the band was Mellotones, and Shay Keane was the trumpeter in the band. Yeah. So, I mean, growing up in that environment, you know, it was just, you know, natural for me to do music. I studied formally with Miss Eunice Horn, who is John Horn's aunt, or was John Horn's aunt. You know, they lived on Bay Street at the time. Miss Horn, you know, she's really strict about practicing and not playing dance music. So when she found out that I was playing keyboard in my father's band, you know, she was highly annoyed, and she cursed my father out. By the way, Miss Horn is also my father's piano teacher, and she told him it would spoil my touch. You shouldn't be doing that to the boy, and you know. But I was more drawn to, I mean, popular music than classics. But you know, I continued anyway.
He was already proficient at the piano, and by age 14, Frankie had formed his own band.
I felt the need to pursue studies in music. It wasn't possible for me to go from St. Vincent, you know, straight to the United States. So I went to Antigua first, and I spent close to 2 years there. Played at La Viscount band. And I told the story yesterday, but I think I should mention it to you again. Prior to going to Antigua, after, you know, getting out of sixth form in grammar school, I was teaching a Timmy, and I was working for probably $160-something a month, you know. I went to Antigua, and for one weekend, Friday, Saturday, I think we played Sunday too, the band leader paid me $600 and then asked me if I would like to join the band. So I called my mother and asked her to tell Timmy, well, look, I wasn't coming back. And I mentioned yesterday to the audience there how I took the money into a room, closed the door, and counted it about 10 times and turned it over and counted it again. I mean, that was big money for me, you know.
Frankie McIntosh migrated to New York and began studying music at Brooklyn College in 1968.
I was in an environment where I was exposed to several different genres of music. Jazz. I mean, a lot of my jazz connections came through Lyle Smith, who's living here now. He had a big band with, I mean, like top names, you know, Carlos Garnett, you know, name it. So I also played, like, you know, popular music, I mean, R&B, and I would be part of a group which would serve as a house band for groups like the Shirelles, the Ink Spots, Jay and the Americans, the Platters. You know, they would come, like, do a weekend and then leave, and then another group would come, you know. So we were like the house band that would play for all these groups.
But it would be the summer of 1976 when McIntosh met a young soca artist called Beckett that his life would change forever, thrusting him into fame.
Then I met Beckett.
Back in 1976, I had a show to do for Granville Straight on the boat ride. Went to rehearse, and the guys couldn't comprehend the music because they said it was written in pencil. So I had to go and get it right over in ink. So I went to the man house, and when I first met him, he picked up the music and he started. I said, this is a genius.
The two became fast friends, and shortly after, Macintosh arranged his first calypso recording for Beckett on his 1977 Disco Calypso album, and included his most popular song, Coming High. Some believe it is arguably Macintosh's best work.
I'm coming high, 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 high. I'm coming high, 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 high. I'm coming education, good books, education, not looks, education, good brain, education, let's train.
And that changed my whole, career objective, because my thing was to, be a pianist. But after arranging the first album for Beckett, the Coming High album, then everyone started calling for arranging work. So the arranging work was so, the calls were so, many. The workload is so heavy that it was impossible for me to keep up practicing piano and doing arranging. So unfortunately, I had to give up the piano, and
Don't regret that?
Well, by that time, I was married, family, had 1 kid, 2 kids. I think, by the time I had 2 kids when I met Beckett, and then subsequent to that, 2 more. So you had to go with what was bringing, paying the bills.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was my, it became my priority at that point.
Okay. And that album was a success?
Yeah, it was a big success. It was taken up by Casablanca Records. And one cut from that, Calypso Disco, that got into the movie The Deep. Yeah. So. And it was also on the soundtrack of The Deep by John Barry. He approved including it. So.
Granville Straker, who was Brooklyn's premier record producer at the time, was highly impressed by Beckett's recordings, and in 1978 approached Macintosh about arranging for his label. Macintosh became musical director for Straker's records. He went on to arrange music for Calypsonians including Chalkless, Shadow, Calypso Rose, Winston Susso, Posa, Lord Nelson, Singing Francine, Duke, King Wellington, and others. By the 1980s, Macintosh was the most sought-after musical arranger in the West Indies. Even though he still resided in Brooklyn, his presence was felt throughout the Caribbean. Calypsonians insisted that what separated Macintosh from other arrangers was that musicians and singers had more input in the arrangement of the music. Macintosh's arrangements always seemed to strike gold, with calypsos that won the Trinidad Calypso Monarch for Chalkless in 1981 and 1989, and Road March for Sparrow in 1984, and for Duke in 1987, all of them Macintosh's arrangements. And for the young Beckett, he kept producing hit after hit after hit.
Girl, you ain't nothing but a teaser, a dirty, dirty teaser. Ooh la 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 la, ooh la la, ooh la 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 la, ooh la la, ooh la 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 la. They say life's rushing, girl, I rush me. I refuse to force
Intosh continues to be held in high esteem by musicians and singers. Calypso King of the World, Mighty Sparrow, commented, "Frankie's unique style and approach for the task at hand puts him ahead of his time. His depth is unfathomable, and he is a gifted musician." The Calypsonian chartless commented, "Frankie is one of those Caribbean geniuses whom we often take for granted. As a Calypsonian on stage, if I happen to glimpse him as a musician in the band, I know my Calypso performance will reach close to perfection." This country's Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves noted, "He is a Caribbean music icon who has rendered exceptional service as a musician, arranger, and producer. He has unselfishly contributed his talents to mold and help develop younger Caribbean artists."
I just do what I have to do as most genuine artists do. You know, your name could be as big as whatever, or small, but you know, at some point, you have to look in the mirror and be true to yourself. And you know what your strengths are, you know what your weaknesses are, you know what your shortcomings are, and you try to work on your weaknesses. And because people could get carried away sometimes by big names and think that, you know, oh, you know, that's where I am now, you know, and they arrive at a plateau beyond which it becomes impossible to go further, you know. So you're just being honest with yourself. You listen to what people say, and you listen to the compliments, and you say thank you, but then you have to look inside